bawling like a dummy. I'm like, this is so great, and I can just barely keep mine alive, and you're so good. So A, I love that. But B, this is why I love her even more. Maybe some of you have seen her helium videos. Anybody seen some of her helium videos? Yeah. Some of you? Yeah. I like people that are okay to think outside the box, to not be normal, obviously. So when any of her team members like hit silver or a great rank, any of them are great. But she does a great little helium video, which I wish we could put that app up somehow, but it's really hilarious. But if you haven't seen it, you need to see some of them. So I am absolutely honored and so proud to introduce to you Miss Kari Lewis.
Really kind, so thank you. Wow. I can only see like 4 of you, but I can hear you, and that's awesome, so cool. My name's Kari Ray Lewis. Fun fact about me, my mother-in-law is also Kari Lewis. My husband's mom's name is also Kari. It's very strange, but we love her. My husband Zach and I live in Oregon. Land of green and rain and clouds and not sunshine. So I'm happy to be here. If I were the Myers-Briggs personality that was a J, I would be much more organized, and I'd put up a really cute picture of my family right here, or there. So just pretend with me that there I am with my cute husband. His name's Zach. You've probably seen him around like wearing a baby, and he's so patient, so steadfast, and just incredibly servant-hearted. So if you get to meet Zach Lewis at some point in your life, you are blessed. And then there's a little baby. She's 6 months old. We got her from the hospital when she was 2 days old. She has changed my life. I love her so much. And then pretend that you're seeing the cutest little 3-year-old boy that you've probably ever seen. He has blonde hair and blue eyes and like a smile that's probably this big. And he's just such a good time. In the summer, he will hopefully be officially adopted, and then he will be ours forever. Like April mentioned, the helium videos, some of you haven't seen them. Maybe that's a good thing. But they're a lot of fun. Anyway, so in June of 2014, I started the business of Young Living. And that month, by the end of the month, there were 11 members on my team. Some of those people are still here. Some of them are in this room and are incredible leaders that I'm sure many of you admire alongside me. Some of them are golds, platinums, diamonds, and some of those 11 people are long gone. Their accounts have gone fully inactive. They didn't want to be a part of this, or they just decided that now is not the time, and that really is okay. Today, I'm going to talk about being uniquely you. I want to talk about the what-ifs, which I'll explain in a second. I want to talk about some of my insecurities and how I try to overcome them over and over and over again. And then I'm going to talk about the language that we speak, and I'm going to wrap it up by talking about the best show on television right now. But I won't tell you what it is yet. So gear up. And since the topic is about being uniquely you, I'm really going to share a lot of my heart with you guys. Is that okay? Okay, so back to the story. There were 11 team members, some around and some are not, that first month of business. And I'm positive that if you were to ask any of the other leaders in here right now, the same type of scenario would be true for all of us. There are some people that totally jump in and are with us for the long haul, and there are some that run away or walk away or want nothing to do with what you're doing. And that can kind of be a shot to the heart sometimes. but I want to ask you to put on your imagination goggles with me right now, because we're going to think about some things. What if I or any of the leaders that you adore in this room were to dwell on those who walked away? What if we let some, or a lot of no answers, or people that just didn't want to be a part of what we had, feed us the lie that we're not capable of more? Or worse yet, that we shouldn't use our gifts, or our talents, or our perspectives, or our voices to bless the people who do want to be here. Can you imagine if Monique McLean had let some people or some situations discourage her from being uniquely herself to the point where she walked away from this business or the oils or us? Like literally none of us would be in this room right now. And that makes me very sad to imagine, so I'm glad it's not true. But yeah, that thought just kind of makes my stomach churn. And more than it makes me sad about the imaginary loss of like a rank like Royal Crown Diamond, it doesn't make me as upset or bummed about the loss of these friendships and this community and this just huge blessing, this wellness that we're achieving, this freedom that we're walking in, and this amount of what I refer to as Jesus-y goodness. What if it was all gone? Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. That's what could happen if you were to let discouragement or fear or insecurity get you down. And if you didn't contribute the amazing gifts and talents and things that make you uniquely you to the world. If you didn't show up and choose to be uniquely you, that sad what-if potential scenario could be missing from your life down the road. And that would be sad. So let's stop talking about sad things. Some or many of you know me well enough to know that I'm not like really that special. I have my own gifts and talents, but I'm a normal, strange girl. And I just say yes to things, and I believe that there is more for me out there because the Lord told me that He has plans for me, and they are plans for good and not for disaster, to give me a future and a hope. Amen. And I hear those words, and I don't always, but most of the time I trust them. Because I know that the person who said them, He is my God, and He is the promise keeper. Like He doesn't say something that He's going to do and then not do it. That's just not how He rolls. So if He has these plans for me, then I know He has these plans for you, and you better believe it. So I want you to walk forward in that and know that there is more, and then pay attention to the things that make you come alive. Those are the desires in your heart. Those are the things that make you sparkle. And I want you to run with those things because they are there for a reason, and He gave them to you. I want you guys to know that there have been seasons of this business that have been pretty hard for me personally. I've questioned if I was really capable of leading, if I had important things to say, if I had half a clue what I was talking about, if I had a support system at all, if I had anything to offer. One second. And saying those insecurities out loud, I hear how ridiculous they sound. Do you guys hear how ridiculous that is? If it were you, or one of my good friends telling me that they were having those feelings or those insecurities, I would stop them and I'd say, stop that right now. Do not talk about my friend like that, because that's not nice. And you are a daughter or a son of the King, and He has equipped you to do great things. Great things. So yes, there will be days that are harder. And yes, there will be days that you feel those insecurities, and that's okay. We're human, it happens. But when those things do start to creep in, will you guys do me a favor and remember who you are? I want you to have no other identity than that of being radically loved. Radically loved. Friends, if I could have you walk away with one thing from this little chit-chat that I'm having with myself, it would be that. I want you to know that you are, in a huge way, deep down, inside out, undoubtedly so freaking loved. Talk for yourselves. That's true. And you are made uniquely. You are made wonderfully and perfectly and beautifully and on purpose. Please know that. And then in that, you do you. Because who you are is so important to bring to the world. Okay, I'm going to tell you a little story that happened a couple weeks ago. If you follow me on social media, you may have seen a little bit of this story. Before Essential Oils, I was a photographer. I photographed weddings and high school senior portraits. And before I dove into that job, I went to school for photography. And while I was there, I met a friend named Olivia, who was incredibly talented, and the two of us stayed in touch since those days, back in the day when I was in school. She, like I said, is really, really talented, so I was excited and honored when she asked if she could take some beautiful portraits of me. And on the morning of my photo shoot, like 10 minutes before I had to walk out the door, because that's how my personality works, I was going through my closet to decide what I wanted to wear. And Zach was rolling his eyes because I do it to myself. The stress of like, what am I gonna wear 2 seconds before? Anyway, but I laughed at myself, and my stress was rising because I was going through my closet and I had nothing to wear. Nothing. And ladies, as you know, that's like the worst kind of stress, right? So anyway, I just grabbed some random things and I threw my options in my car, and then I set off to go to her studio in Portland. And while I was driving across town, I started thinking fear thoughts, and I called Zach and I was like, I just need to talk because I haven't even gotten my thought about getting my nails done since like the summer. I still haven't. And like my skin is breaking out and I don't have anything to wear, and how am I ever supposed to have these beautiful photos taken of me if like I'm this insecure? It was just like bad thoughts about myself galore coming out, bubbling out. And Zach, being the wonderful husband and man that he is, quickly, very quickly and sweetly reminded me that, Kari, you know that's not where your beauty really comes from, and it never has been. And I was like, man, you're cute. That is really nice. But in that, my whole mindset like shifted immediately. And I thought back to a conversation that I just had a couple weeks before that with my friend Lauren Wagner. She reminded me of the power of language. More specifically, the language that we speak and hear about ourselves. Lauren came to visit us. She's from North Carolina, and she came out to Portland to spend a couple days with Zach and our kids and I. Me. Grammar. She came to Portland to spend time with me, yeah. And we sat on the couch together, and she honestly rocked my ever-loving world as she just really simply explained the difference between speaking and hearing the language of God versus speaking and hearing the language of the world. So let me back up, like way up into the Garden of Eden. the very beginning of human life on earth. You see, Adam and Eve were walking around in the garden and they were naked. And in the Hebrew language, when it says that they were naked, that word literally means that they were naked and unashamed. So they were like prancing around, doing their naked thing, just like they were made to do. Which is so funny to think about. But anyways, good for them. And I wasn't going to say that. I'm sorry. And then, as the story goes, Eve takes a bite of fruit that she was not supposed to, and she convinced her husband to do the same. Were they married? I mean, they were the only people, so husband, sure. They immediately knew that they were wrong for doing something that God had specifically asked and told them, you shouldn't do that. So they ran off to hide from God, which is also funny because you can't do that. But they tried. And then God comes to them and he asks, like, hey, what are you guys doing? And Adam says, we're naked. But they already were naked. And I think this is so cool because the word that Adam uses right here, naked, in the Hebrew language is actually a completely different word. And it means naked and ashamed. Before it was naked and unashamed. And this time when he says it, it's naked and ashamed. And God said, who told you that you were naked? Meaning, who taught you that word? Because that is not my language. They were speaking a completely different language. You guys, there is a language of God. And when he speaks about you, it is only in love. It adores the crap out of you. Hopefully not literally. And it breathes, I wasn't going to say that either. And it breathes life into you. So I want to ask, like, what language are you hearing? When you look at yourself or your talents and you think, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, my nails aren't painted enough, that's me. I'm not capable, I'm too shy, I'm not organized enough, I can't do live videos, I'm not a photographer, I'm not ... fill in the blank of whatever nots you say you are. I can tell you that one thing that you are not is listening to the language of God over your life. Because when he looks at you, he sees a perfect creation of his. He makes no mistakes, friends. Not on you, not on the person next to you, believe it or not. No mistakes. And the language that you speak over yourself and over others is so important. I know that you guys know that words have power, but I think that way of putting it, the language of God versus not, just made it so simple and clear to me. So I hope that that helps you a little bit too. Pay attention to that language. As I was talking with Zach about that whole idea, he goes, yeah, what are you gonna put on, valor or glue? And I was like, glue? Like, why? And he goes, yeah, glue, it just holds you down and it gets you stuck. I think we put glue on sometimes. Silly. Anyway, and I thought about it, and I was like, you know, maybe he's onto something here. I know that it sounds silly, but roll with it. All of those I am not phrases that you have, like I'm not good enough or I'm not smart enough, whatever you think, they have probably become the norm for some of you, or many of you, or maybe all of you in some way. You have listened to and believed and accepted a language that you were never even meant to hear. And layers of ooey, gooey, sticky, nasty glue have ended up creating a shell over who you uniquely are. The wonderful, beautiful, capable, radically loved person that you are. So my challenge for you is to start listening to the language that he is speaking over you daily, and let it roll over your glue shell like lemon oil and disintegrate that badness, okay? Okay, on to the best television show of all time. Who here, or at least on TV right now, who here watches This Is Us? Yeah. Okay, for those of you who haven't seen it or don't watch it, I'm tempted to tell you to leave. But not because I don't want you here, only because I want you to go and watch it and then come back. Binge watch and then come back. It's so good. So do that when you go home. Don't leave right now, because that would make me feel really sad. Okay, so if you haven't seen it, there's this awesome scene where Kevin, who is a former TV actor, is about to do his first live play in New York. His fears and insecurities are raging, and he goes to his mama's house, as he should. But his mom's new husband, Miguel, answers the door. Kevin's dad, I'm going to try not to do too much spoilers, but Kevin's dad had passed away previously, and in a crazy turn of events, somehow his dad's best friend ends up marrying his mom. They sit down together while waiting for his mom to come down against Kevin's wishes, because nobody really likes Miguel, right? At least not yet. He kind of redeems himself here. And this awesome scene happens. I wish that I could show you, but I'm just going to do my best acting for you. Where they're sitting down together, and Kevin is like, I'm in my play tonight, and it's opening night, and I'm nervous, and what if I fall on my face and do a terrible job? And Miguel sits there, and he says, I talked to your dad. He was my person. He was the one who could steady you when the world felt like it was spinning. And Kevin was like, yeah, that's my dad, that's very true. And Miguel says, you remind me of him, you know that? The way that you move your hands when you talk, the way that you walk across the room. Sometimes you remind me of him so much that the hair on my arms stands up. That's why it breaks my heart that you don't like me, Kevin. Because when I'm around you, I feel like I get a piece of my best friend back. And Kevin goes, Miguel, That's in the script, so I had to say that. Okay, and then Miguel says, you are Jack Pearson's son. You have him inside of you. And when you are nervous or at your most nerve-wracking moment, the curtain's about to go up, all you have to do is remind yourself of that, and you'll be fine. And this scene got me all kinds of fired up because I knew that I was coming here, and I knew that I was speaking on the topic of being uniquely you, and it just fits so perfectly, so thank you, This Is Us. What happened here is Miguel took the time to speak life over Kevin, so he redeemed himself. Miguel, you're all right. We'll deal with you. He tells Kevin about the characteristics of his father that are deep inside of him. He reminds Kevin of who he is and what he's capable of. And I think it's so important that we speak life over our friends, over our teams, over our family, over our children, and over ourselves like that. Yeah, because you are God's son or daughter, and when I look at you, I see his blank characteristics. Maybe if we were to say this to someone, when I look at you, I see maybe his patience, his faithfulness, his creativity, his joy, his strength, his trustworthiness, his gentleness. Friends, we all have different qualities and characteristics of God that are alive inside of us, and we are all made to use them and to work in them just like Kevin did when then later he stood at the curtain. He remembered who he was, and I won't spoil all the details of what happens because it's such a good scene, you have to see it. But he chose to be uniquely himself in this moment, and he did something that was really brave, inspired by his father. Those of you who have seen it, you know what I'm talking about? What he did? Yeah. So good, right? So good. Okay. You are Jack Pearson's son. I think those are the kind of words that we could all stand to speak and hear more often. So I'm going to give you a 3-part challenge to wrap this baby up, swaddle it, put it to sleep. Okay. Wasn't going to say that either. Number 1, ask yourself constantly, all day long, in everything, whose language is that? Whose language is that? Am I listening to, am I hearing, am I speaking the language of God or the language of the world or of the enemy? Okay, number 2. Are we good? Okay. Number 2, tell others today, tomorrow, the day after that, for the rest of your life. I want you to find someone each day. Maybe it's your upline, your downline, your crossline, your spouse, your child. When I see you, I see his, blank, capital H for his. You don't have to do it like that, but when I see you, I see his blank. And then number 3, be uniquely you and put on valor, not glue. And that's all. Thank you guys so much for listening. It was really fun to be here.